Alright, so here's your basic information for ecology. I'm going to try and make this short and sweet and simple. So the definition of ecology is studying interactions between living, biotic, and non-living, abiotic. Ecology combines information from many fields. So you're never going to just have an ecologist. They usually do like water ecology, wildlife ecology, stream ecology, very specific, even potentially down to a specific area, like Northeast Pennsylvania tree ecologist. So ecology is important because many species can become extinct, and we as humans are kind of ruining a lot of this by inhabiting a lot of land and our population booming, which we're going to talk about in this unit. And as our population of humans booms, we're impacting other species and causing them to not be able to perform their niches, which are their jobs. So living things and non-living things live together, or I shouldn't say live, but work together to make the living creatures be able to live. And so an environment or an ecosystem is the combination of biotic factors with your abiotic factors. The biosphere, which you're going to see here in a little bit, is the thin layer on the earth. It's like dipping into the soil down, I don't know, I'm going to estimate so many feet, like 50 feet. And then going up in the atmosphere to a certain level where life cannot exist anymore without, life-saving measures. So the biosphere is thin. It's like if you take an apple and you peel off the skin. That'd be like the earth. We're peeling off the skin of the earth. That's the biosphere, the area on which the living creatures can be supported by the non-living factors. So in our planet, we put levels. This is the end of our hierarchy. So back in the beginning of the year for our cell characteristic of life, we had cells build tissues, tissues build organs, organs build organ systems, and the organ system then led to the organism. Well, we're going to take off from there. So a single organism is an individual that has the 8 characteristics of life. That's our first level. And then our second level is when the organisms group together. They have to be of the same species, and they have to be able to interbreed with each other. Like zebras can interbreed, toucans can interbreed, tulips can interbreed. Those are plants. And so that's a population of tulips, of zebras, of toucans. The third level of organization is biological community, which we'll just call community. So organisms build populations, and then populations build these communities. Communities are built up of all the populations of different species that are living in the same place at the same time. So a community is all the zebras, all the wildebeests, all the trees, all the grass, all the living things of the same type that are living together and successfully allowing each other to live together. That's a community. Ecosystems are a combination of all those living communities mixed with the abiotic components, the air, the sun, the dirt, the water, the dust. And then your fifth level is then when you take all of those ecosystems and add them up across the globe, you get your biosphere. If you peel off the layer of an apple, if you peel off the layer of the earth that supports life, that's your biosphere. Bio means, that's right, life. Sphere is a circle. Biosphere, the living part of our earth. It supports life. So if you put this all together, and you may want to get your phone out and do a little screenshot of this, no lie, this screen could help you. You have individuals, which is your organism. They build populations, which is a group of the same organism. If you have different organisms living together in multiple populations, you have a community. That includes both the plants. Your ecosystem is when you take into account the non-living stuff. Yes, there's still non-living stuff in this community level, but this is where you take into account the mountains, the lakes, the air, the sun, okay, with the ecosystem level, along with the living things. Biomes, we'll discuss, are little areas that share the same plant life, the same animal life. They have the same climate, and they are similar. And then you add up all those across the world, and you get your biosphere. So, ecosystems, there's 2 types. There's terrestrial and then there's aquatic. You either live on the land or you live in the water, basically. Okay, and we're not going to get into all this freshwater versus, we're just not. So that then leads us to niches. Niches are the jobs that organisms take and have when they're in their habitats. I have a hard time explaining niches because kids want to always humanize this. It's not always you go to work. An animal's job is basically to survive and reproduce and to eat. And if you can't eat, you don't have enough energy. And if you don't have enough energy, then you can't reproduce. Certain organisms also do certain things that make them important for their environment. Termites eat wood. We need wood broken down. Do we need wood broken down in our homes? No. But if there's a log laying in the forest that needs to be decomposed to return the carbon and the nutrients to the soil, are termites important? Yes. So then here's a little question here, which then you're going to have a question on Ed Puzzle. According to what we know about niches, how do you think it's possible that all these birds inhabit the same spruce tree? And they eat different food, and there's no competition. So there's going to be words, lots of vocab with this unit. Carnivores eat meat. Herbivores eat plants. Omnivores can eat anything, plant, animal, or fungus. Fungus throws a little loop in this whole hole. So omnivores basically eat anything. Scavengers are going to eat dead stuff. Decomposers are organisms that sit there and chemically break down organic matter. Okay? Fungus is a decomposer. So basically, if you're an omnivore, you eat herbivores, you eat carnivores, and you can also eat decomposers. So then detritivores, which might be new here, detritivores, like earthworms, eat and shrimp and mites and snails and crabs. They're basically like bottom feeders. They eat stuff that's left behind as waste products. Poop. So worms eat stuff that's been left behind that's laying in the soil, right? Crabs and shrimp and lobsters, they eat stuff that's fallen in the water and lands in the bottom of the ocean. Again, this would be waste materials from other organisms. Your detritivores come in and eat it. So then we have the screen with, it's basically if you're an organism that sits on the bottom of your food chain, which we're going to get into here, you're either a chemotroph or you're a chemosynthetic organism or you're photosynthetic organism. And I'm going to get into this a little later, so I'm going to skip this for now. So a food chain is basically a representation of giving energy from one creature to the next to the next. So what do the red lines represent? That's right, energy transfer. So the pondweed gives energy to the snail gives energy to the minnow gives energy to the perch. So on a food web, it shows you more possibilities of these transfers. You're not just going to have the spider giving energy to the frog. The spider might also be giving energy to a bird who eats a spider. They just don't have the line drawn there. But you'll notice that for here, this wolf or coyote, whatever you think it is getting energy from birds, from mice, and from frogs, and from these moles here. All possible feeding relationships are shown in a food web. So what's more realistic in nature, a food chain or a food web? That's right, a food web, because it shows all the possible relationships. So this pyramid, okay, is going to have these trophic levels. So trophic levels are going to be your positions. So your producers are going to be your autotrophs, and they're going to be like your plants and your algae, and they're always going to be on the bottom. And they're always going to give energy to your consumers. And your consumers are going to be your heterotrophs. And your heterotrophs are either going to be primary consumers, secondary consumers, or tertiary consumers, which I don't have on the screen, but that means your third level. Your decomposers can go anywhere on these pyramids. And they're going to be just basically microorganisms or fungi, and they're going to be coming in and breaking down stuff and ingesting it on whatever level they want to. So your carnivores are usually on the top. Your herbivores are usually on the primary consumer, your first level there. Your plants are always on the bottom, and your omnivores usually sit in your secondary consumer level, and your carnivores usually sit in your tertiary consumer level. Remember, your carnivores eat meat, your herbivores eat plants, and then your omnivores eat anything. So this all goes then down to this little thing called a energy pyramid, which I'm going to make a quick separate video for.